predator becomes prey in the Florida Everglades as hundreds of hunters descend on the Sunshine State to catch and kill as many Burmese pythons as possible.
In the war between nature and the Burmese pythons in Florida's Everglades, there seems to be only one winner: the pythons. Devouring everything in their path, they have slowly but surely disrupted the balance that once kept the wild in check, and now even humans are not entirely safe. Since nature couldn't save its own, help was sought from unnatural forces in the form of robotic rabbits. But what happened next shocked everyone to their bones: the silent invasion of the Everglades. In South Florida, pythons are no longer just another swamp animal. They've become a serious problem, and locals can't stop talking about it. These snakes move silently through the Everglades, slipping through the tall grass and dark water where no one can see them. When night falls, they begin to hunt, swallowing birds, rabbits, and even small deer. By morning, the swamp feels hollow, as if every other creature has learnt to stay away. What was once a noisy and lively home for wildlife now feels like the pythons have turned it into their own silent kingdom. However, here's the thing. This invasion didn't happen by accident, but rather through human mistakes. These snakes are not even originally from Florida. They came all the way from Southeast Asia, where they ruled the jungles and marshes as powerful hunters. No one ever imagined they would become a problem in America, but somehow they did. Over the years, they have spread through South Florida's wetlands like a silent invasion, taking over one patch of land after another. The most unsettling part is that they are not just surviving in the Everglades, they are thriving. Now, back in the 1970s and 80s, owning exotic pets became a new trend in the United States. Pet shops were filled with snakes, lizards, and colorful birds from faraway countries. And one of the most popular pets was the Burmese python. When they were little, they looked harmless, calm, and even cute. People thought they would make fun pets to show off to friends. But most owners did not realize that these snakes never stop growing. Before long, those small pythons started to get very large. Some grew 10, 15, or even 20 feet long. They became too strong and too wild for most people to keep at home. Some owners got scared, while others simply gave up. Many thought the easiest solution was to let the snakes go. Some released them into canals, while others drove deep into the swamps and set them free. Then, in 1992, the problem got even worse due to Hurricane Andrew, one of the strongest storms to ever hit South Florida. The storm tore through the state and destroyed many reptile facilities. Hundreds of snakes escaped from damaged cages and spread into the Everglades. Those once released pets mixed with the storm escapees, forming a breeding population that would soon take over the swamp. The Everglades turned out to be the perfect home for the pythons. The warm weather, plenty of water, and endless food helped them settle in quickly. Birds, rabbits, raccoons, and even alligators became part of their meal. With no real predators to stop them and the ability to lay up to 100 eggs a year, the population increased. Biologists now estimate that tens of thousands roam South Florida. Each year, their numbers grew, and soon there were more than anyone could count. Also, what they've done to the food web is catastrophic. The snakes are destroying small animals. Studies from the University of Florida show that mammal populations in some areas have dropped by more than 90%. Rabbits, raccoons, and opossums that were once everywhere are now nearly extinct. Even deer are becoming rare. The pythons eat them all, and the delicate food chain that kept the swamp in balance is collapsing, one meal at a time. However, the invasion didn't stay in the wild. It also crept into neighborhoods. Residents report seeing snakes under cars, sneaking through gardens, and even lurking near pets. One family found a massive python inside their chicken coop, while another watched one cross a busy road in the middle of the night. It is unsettling to know that snakes once kept in cages are now roaming freely through neighborhoods that were never meant to face them. People are scared, and parents worry about leaving their kids alone in the house, even for a short time. The snakes seem to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Just knowing they could appear almost anywhere is enough to unsettle anyone. The people keep fighting, but the battle for the Everglades is slipping away. The snake always seems to be one step ahead. Hunters wade through chest-deep water, guided only by drones and flashlights, chasing shadows that seem to vanish before their eyes. Every python caught feels like a small win, but dozens more are hiding in the reeds, waiting silently. But despite many failed attempts to control these invaders, the people of Florida are not giving up. They are determined and willing to do whatever it takes to protect their homes and land. But could anything truly stop these silent, moving invaders? The hunters, the dogs, and the losing battle. When the Burmese pythons started taking over the Everglades, officials thought stopping them would be simple, but soon they realized this was no ordinary problem. The snakes were getting bigger, spreading faster, and hiding in places people couldn't reach. At first, the government encouraged everyone not to panic and brought in skilled, fearless hunters who knew how to track these giant snakes one by one. They also hoped that if enough people joined in, they could stop the invasion before it got completely out of hand. So, in 2013, they launched the Python Challenge. The challenge was basically an open invitation to anyone who wanted to help. Hunters came from all over the country, ready to face the invaders. There were cash prizes, cameras following every move, and a buzz of excitement everywhere. People started talking about it like it was a brand new sport. Some saw it as Florida's way of fighting back. Others laughed, calling it the strangest contest the state had ever seen. Either way, it got everyone talking. For a while, it felt like hope was finally back. Hunters caught a few big snakes, and every capture brought cheers. But unfortunately, the victory didn't last. When the final numbers came in, only a few hundred snakes had been caught, while scientists estimated tens of thousands were still hiding deep in the swamp. It was like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. The victory everyone celebrated turned out to be only an illusion. The hunters soon realized the pythons were far smarter than anyone expected. The snakes could blend perfectly into the swamp, making them almost invisible. Even the best hunters would walk right past without noticing. It was clear they needed a new approach, something that could outsmart the snakes. In 2020, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission decided to try something bold. They sent 2 specially trained dogs into the Everglades, tasked with doing what humans could not, sniffing out the nearly invisible. Their names were Truman and Eleanor. Truman, a sleek black Labrador, and Eleanor, a clever golden retriever, were like detectives on 4 legs. These dogs had an incredible sense of smell and could detect pythons hiding under thick grass or tangled roots. But at first it seemed almost impossible, but when desperate times called for desperate measures, they were ready. The dogs can sniff out the scent of python skin and alert their handlers with a bark or by stopping suddenly. When they located a snake, the handlers moved in fast. Videos of the dogs at work quickly began to trend online, and for a while people thought this might be the big breakthrough everyone had been waiting for. The dogs were smart, loyal, and completely focused. Every snake they helped capture felt like a small but meaningful victory in an endless war. But as time went on, the same problem kept coming back. The Everglades stretched endlessly, over 1.5 million acres of water, mud, and thick, tangled plants. Even the smartest dogs could not cover it all. They ran tirelessly, noses to the ground, but the swamp seemed to have a mind of its own. Some days the dogs returned exhausted and empty-handed, the heat pressing down on them, the water slowing their steps, and the snakes always staying just out of reach. The dogs could only work for short periods before getting tired or overheated. It was a fight that felt endless, as if the Everglades itself were hiding secrets no one could uncover. However, the program wasn't a total failure. The dogs helped researchers learn where the snakes were hiding and how they were spreading. Every python found gave scientists a clearer picture of the invasion. But for every snake caught, more were being born deep in the swamp. The harder people tried, the faster the snakes seemed to multiply. Soon, the excitement around the dog program began to fade. It was a sobering moment for everyone involved. The pythons were winning again, and no one wanted to admit it. Hunters couldn't find enough snakes, and the dogs couldn't reach them all. It was becoming clear that humans could not win this fight with effort alone. They obviously needed a smarter approach. The researchers didn't give up, not with so much already lost. Birds, mammals, and reptiles that once filled the Everglades were disappearing, and the pythons showed no sign of slowing down. Officials realized they needed a new plan, something beyond hunters or dogs. They turned to science, asking if technology could do what humans and animals couldn't. If people couldn't track the snakes and dogs couldn't reach them, maybe machines could finally reveal the secrets the swamp had been hiding all along. So the question changed. If humans and dogs couldn't catch the snakes, could something else trick them? And the answer was about to come from the most unexpected place. Technology took on the invasion. The Burmese pythons were no longer just a wildlife problem, it had turned into a full-blown crisis. People had tried everything. Hunters waded through the swamps, dogs sniffed out every nook and cranny, and still the snakes seemed untouchable. When all the usual tricks failed, scientists started thinking differently. If chasing them wasn't working, maybe it was time to get smarter than the snakes themselves. Across labs and wildlife centers in Florida, researchers got to work studying every python they could catch. They weighed them, checked what they were eating, and even opened their stomachs to see the evidence firsthand. What they found left everyone stunned. Some snakes had swallowed full-grown deer, alligators, and even family pets. Suddenly, it was clear. These weren't just a few lost or stray snakes. These were apex predators, perfectly at home in Florida. And if scientists wanted any chance of stopping them, they had to figure out exactly how they moved, hunted, and survived. That's when scientists came up with a clever new idea: tracking the snakes using what they called scout snakes. The pythons captured by researchers were fitted with small transmitters and then released back into the wild. These scout snakes became the key to finding others. The idea was simple but brilliant. During breeding season, pythons are drawn to each other, so following one could lead to many more. It was risky, yes, but for the first time in years, it actually worked. Whenever a scout snake moved, scientists followed closely. Sometimes the trackers led them to entire nests filled with eggs. Other times, they found groups of snakes coiled together under thick brush. Each discovery added pieces to a bigger picture. The data showed where the pythons liked to live, when they hunted, and how they avoided humans. Slowly, a hidden map of the python's secret world began to take shape. Despite all these discoveries, one big problem lingered. As we've mentioned earlier, the Everglades is huge, stretching over 1.5 million acres of water, mud, and tangled plants, and humans simply couldn't check every inch on foot. That's when drones stepped in, buzzing above the swamp like tiny spies. With heat-sensing cameras, they could spot snakes hiding in tall grass, watch pythons glide through the marsh, or curl up near tree roots. But soon, the drones started hitting their limits. They could only stay in the air for a few hours before needing a recharge, and the swamp's heavy heat and humidity often messed with their sensors. Meanwhile, the snakes kept multiplying faster than anyone could track, slipping through the marsh like shadows. Every plan seemed to fall short, yet the scientists refused to surrender. They needed something new, something bolder, stranger, and smarter than anything tried before. A creation that could navigate the swamp, withstand the heat, and draw the pythons out of hiding. That answer would come soon enough, as Florida unleashed its first army of robotic rabbits into the wild, and the Everglades held its breath to see what would happen next. introduction of robotic rabbit. After years of trying everything, the researchers were running out of options. Scout snakes had given them hints, dogs had sniffed their way through the swamps, and drones had spotted them from above, but the pythons were still winning. Then the team stumbled onto something surprising and, honestly, a little creepy. The snakes had a weakness. They couldn't resist rabbits. Not just any rabbits, but marsh rabbits, the tiny little mammals that used to be everywhere in the Everglades but are now nearly vanished. Just the scent, the warmth, even the faintest trace was enough to make a python leave its hiding spot and slither into the open. Suddenly, the swamp had revealed one of its oldest secrets, and the researchers couldn't believe what they had found. At first, the idea sounded almost impossible. Could tiny, trembling rabbits really lure cunning predators like Burmese pythons? Some scientists weren't sure, and the public was even more skeptical. But the researchers didn't have a choice. The snakes had already outsmarted hunters, dogs, and drones. If there was any hope of tracking them, they had to follow what the pythons were naturally drawn to. So the team set up small, secure enclosures along the swamp trails and placed live marsh rabbits inside. The cages kept the bunnies safe while letting their scent and warmth spread through the swamp, tempting the predators to reveal themselves. Surprisingly, just a few weeks after setting up the enclosures, the first pythons began to appear, one after another, almost like clockwork. Some sites attracted more than 20 snakes over the course of a few months. The tiny marsh rabbits had become irresistible magnets for one of the most secretive and elusive predators in the Everglades. At last, for the first time in years, scientists had a way to watch python activity unfold in real time, giving them a glimpse into a world that had long been hidden in the shadows. But this breakthrough came with a problem. Using live rabbits didn't sit well with everyone. Animal welfare groups and even some scientists raised alarms, calling the experiments cruel and unnecessary. Images of tiny, trembling rabbits surrounded by giant constrictors sparked outrage and debate. Could humans really justify putting innocent animals at risk, even to fight an invasive species? Public pressure grew, and soon, funding for live bait trials was pulled entirely. After the live bait trials were shut down, scientists realized something. If the snakes were drawn to rabbits, they could create a rabbit that couldn't be harmed. That thought sparked an idea so bold it sounded almost unbelievable. What if a robot could do the job of a living marsh rabbit? In 2025, a new team came together to outsmart the snakes. Engineers and wildlife experts began working side by side, blending science with creativity in a way no one had tried before. They studied everything that seemed to attract a python: the warmth of a rabbit's body, the faint scent it left behind, and even the tiny movements that caught the snake's attention. Every detail mattered, and the goal was to build a rabbit that wasn't alive but real enough to fool one of nature's most cunning predators. At first, the idea sounded wild, almost like something out of a science fiction movie. But for these scientists, it was their only way forward. After months of testing and countless late nights, the team finally cracked it. They built a small device that could twitch and hop just like a real marsh rabbit. Tiny heat pads gave it the warmth of living flesh, and scientists even recreated the faint musky scent that once drifted through the Everglades. It was fascinating to watch, this lifeless little machine moving and smelling so real that even the snakes couldn't tell the difference. But here's the best part. These robotic rabbits weren't just decoys. Each one was like a tiny spy, fitted with cameras and sensors to record how the snakes behaved, all without putting a single living creature in danger. When the prototypes were finally ready, they looked like little toy bunnies that didn't quite belong in the wild. But once they were placed in the swamp, everything changed. Scientists carefully set the robotic rabbits in key spots where pythons were known to roam. And before long, one by one, the snakes began to appear, gliding silently through the mud and reeds. Some coiled around the robotic rabbit, tasting the air, trying to decide if it was real. For a few seconds, they were fooled. The cameras inside caught everything from the slow approach to the sudden strike and the unsettling stillness that followed. Each encounter revealed how these hidden hunters thought and moved through their world. For the first time, scientists were finally getting answers without risking any lives. Each robotic rabbit had become a silent spy in a battle humans had been losing for years. And soon, the results spoke for themselves. The data coming from the robotic rabbits gave scientists a whole new look into the python's secret life. They could now see when the snakes were most active, where they preferred to hunt, and even how they reacted to different kinds of prey. It was like unlocking a hidden world that had been buried under the swamp for decades. For the first time, researchers could track python movements in real time, plan traps more effectively, and predict breeding zones before they exploded with eggs. Word spread quickly among the teams, and suddenly, the robotic rabbit wasn't just an experiment anymore. It was the most promising method Florida had ever come up with in its fight against the pythons. Over time, the robotic rabbits were upgraded. Some could now record temperature changes. Others streamed live video from deep inside the swamp. A few even carried small trackers that helped scientists trace where other pythons were hiding. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The Everglades is still wild and unpredictable, yet something had clearly changed. For the first time in years, humans weren't losing the fight. They were finally one step ahead, and that gave everyone a reason to hope again. But as this video comes to an end, some questions still linger. Would these clever decoys keep outsmarting the pythons in the long run? Or would the snakes eventually learn the trick? And if this experiment truly works, what other hidden secrets of the wild could technology uncover next? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.